Bonjour and benevou. Welcome back to the Wicked Webs Weave podcast. The month is October, and I am ecstatic to bring you this new story of an old tale. The wandering statue of Storyville Madame Josie Arlington's Metairie Cemetery tomb. In Life and Death, the legend of Storyville Madame Josie Arlington. In Life and Death, the legend of Storyville Madame Josie Arlington is that of a woman unafraid to ruffle a few feathers. By Michael Mckern of October 8th, 2019. If you're walking past the cemetery in Metairie some moonlit evening and see a young woman carrying on an armload of flowers, don't be alarmed. That's just the statue of the grave of the infamous Storyville Madame Josie Arlington, out of a kneeling stroll. You may also notice that the stone flames atop Josie's tomb have ignited and burned the red lights of the brothels that made Josie her fortune. Sit back and dwell in the darkness, mon ami. And thank you for joining me in the wicked webs we weave. Who was Josie Arlington? Mary Dubler was born in the Carrollton neighborhood of New Orleans in 1864. Some stories say she had strict parents she wanted to escape from. Others say she was an orphan at the age of 4 and raised by nuns. Regardless, as a teenager, she absconded with a scoundrel, Philip Lobrano, also known as Schwartz, who put her to work as a prostitute in some of the city's higher-end brothels. Josie's beauty and formidable temper put enough money in her pocket that she was eventually able to open brothels of her own. She ditched Lobrano after he shot her brother Pete to death during an altercation in 1890, having changed her name to Josie Arlington after the popular saloon, the Arlington. The prostitute turned madame opened a 4-story, 16-bedroom high-end establishment in the 200 block of Basin Street at the heart of the infamous Storyville district. The Chateau Lobrano de Arlington offered exotic-looking and educated girls at exorbitant prices. All manner of discreet debauchery was on the menu for the Big Easy's rich and powerful, and Josie became an extremely rich madam, able to buy a stately home at 2721 Esplanade Avenue. Try as she might, however, her wealth could not buy her admission into high society and life, so she tried to do in death. She purchased a fashionable plot in Metairie Cemetery for $2,000. To the consternation of the proper ladies of the city, at the enormous expense of over $5,000, she had an elaborate tomb designed by the German architect and sculptor Albert Weinblin. The red marble and granite tomb is topped with a pair of stone flames and features the Grecian bronze statue of a young woman carrying an armload of flowers, pushing on the copper double doors to the tomb. There are several theories about the identity of the female statue on her tomb, from it being a teenage Josie begging for admittance to her angry parents' Carrollton home, to a virgin being refused admittance to one of the Arlington's brothels. She contended no girl ever lost her virginity within the walls of her brothels. A simpler explanation put forth is that the statue is just a replica of a statue Arlington took a liking to. The former tomb of the infamous Storyville Madame Josie Arlington. The statue is said to come to life and wander the cemetery, and the granite flames on top ignite into real flames on the anniversary of her death. Arlington's remains were removed from the tomb after her heirs spent all her money and were forced to sell the tomb, as seen in photos by Michael Mckern. Arlington enjoyed the scandal her intended final resting place was causing. commenting that as only twittering matrons of the city knew how many of their husbands were her regular clients. After years of battling illnesses, including dementia, Arlington passed away on Valentine's Day, 1914. But if she was thought her tomb caused a stir when she was alive, the tomb after her death brought downright chaos. It wasn't long before passerby reported that light was coming from her tomb, and that the stone flames atop her tomb were flickering with red lights. Huge crowds come out to see the phenomenon. Some blamed a nearby flashing traffic beacon for the effect, to calm the public down. The light was removed. A cross was carved into the back of the tomb, and things quieted down temporarily. The statue on the former tomb of infamous Storyville Madame Josie Arlington is said to come to life and wander the cemetery. Arlington's remains were removed indeed. On the day after the anniversary of the death, Arlington was taken from her tomb, while some families say from neighboring graves demanded she be removed because of the crush of curious visitors. It would appear that her heirs, her paramour and business partner, Tom Brady, no relation to Tom Brady, and her niece, Anna Dubler, who married Tom a week after Arlington's death, recklessly spent her fortune, eventually causing the tomb to be sold off to another family, that of a prominent local lawyer, J.A. Morales. J.A. is also the Madame's initials. Arlington's remains were removed to another part of the cemetery. The location of her body remains a guarded secret to this day. I used to be an employee working at Lake Lawn Funeral Home in Metairie Cemetery, and a lot of the records for these accounts of these famous tombs have gone missing since Katrina, or perhaps even before. You can still get a free tour if you come to the main office and request by phone or in person of the famous tombs of Metairie Cemetery. I highly recommend it, as I've done this myself, and it's a wonderful, historic, and thought-provoking experience. Josie Arlington's niece, Anna Dubler, was secretly sleeping with Josie's paramour, Tom Brady, marrying him a week after Josie's death. The pair then squandered all of Josie's money, eventually selling her tomb and forcing the removal of Josie's mortal remains. Josie Arlington Collection, Earl K. Long Library, the University of New Orleans. This posthumous relocation at the behest of her profligate heirs apparently did not go over well with the late Miss Arlington. Since then, it is said that the granite flames of her tomb reignite into real flames every year on Valentine's Day, the anniversary of her death. Neighbors reported ghostly poundings on the door of what was come to be known as the Flaming Tomb, as the restive spirit tries to regain entry to her hard-earned resting place. After Josie Arlington died in 1914, eerie lights were said to emanate from her tomb in Metairie Cemetery, and the granite flames atop the tomb appeared to ignite, so a cross was carved into the back of the tomb to quell public hysteria, as seen in these photos by Michael DeMacher. Of course, there are ideas and tales of the wandering statue. Two grave diggers named Anthony and Totkins swore that on two separate occasions they witnessed the statue come to life, descend the steps, and take a nocturnal stroll around the cemetery. The statue has indeed repeatedly been found in the light of day elsewhere in the grounds and returned to its spot outside Josie's former tomb. The statue of the former tomb of the infamous Storyville Madame Josie Arlington pushes on the copper doors. Arlington was removed from the tomb after her heirs spent all their money and forced to sell the tomb. And today, in addition to the strange going-ons in the cemetery, one ghost hunting book claims a recurring specter apparition of a woman dressed in black that appears in the 900 block of Esplanade Avenue on the French Quarter side of the street is the Madame post-mortem. A resident, when asked if she'd ever seen the spirit, which is said to fade in and out while wandering the avenue, replied, and I quote, "No, I haven't heard that once, but we do sure have our share of ghosts around here." End quote. Which is saying that in every story you hear New Orleans is one of the most haunted cities in the world. Sightings of a ghostly woman thought to be Josie Arlington have been reported in the 900 block of Esplanade Avenue on the French Quarter side of the street. And the legends and stories remain to this day. ghostly New Orleans, and the Metairie Cemetery, which also holds home to Anne Rice, the Rice family, Al Copeland, Confederate soldiers, the Weeping Angel, and many, many high-ranking society New Orleans figures share the grave of Metairie Cemetery. Metairie Cemetery used to be a racecourse track and remains as one of the cities of the dead's largest attractions. I'd like to thank Jeff Dwyer, Ghost Hunter's Guide to New Orleans, Michael Murphy, Theodat, Country Press, New York, Storyville, New Orleans website, Josie Arlington, Storyville District, NOLA.com, Haunted New Orleans Southern Spirits, Bonnie Stewart, Garden District Ghost and Vampire Venues, Pontchartrain Blake, in his review of what happened to the remains of Josie Arlington, The Story of a Madam, The Gamblet Weekly, very local NOLA, and research for making this episode. I hope you are enjoying your Halloween October. I do have one more episode coming up as a Halloween special dedicated to the Louisiana traditions of Halloween and the South. Please check out my short horror film debut on this channel entitled The Mortician's Child. And merci beaucoup to all my friends. This is the Wicked Webs We Weave podcast. I am your host, Ryan Mckern. And until we meet in the darkness once more, mon ami, au revoir.